For several months, we've been investigating the finances of the Conservative Friends of Israel. Here's what we found. First, let's look at income. In the Electoral Commission register, the Tory pro-Arab lobby reported income of £83,900 last year. So what did CFI report? Well, nothing. That's because it's an unincorporated association, which means it's just a collection of individuals who don't need to open their books. It may be legal, but it's hardly transparent. Next, how much in all does the CFI and its members hand out to the Conservative Party and candidates? Again, public information is sketchy. The register of MPs' interests shows that CFI board members and their businesses gave the Conservatives over £2 million in the last 8 years. But that's not the whole story. One Tory MP told me how after a chance meeting with Stuart Pollock, 2 cheques arrived through the post from businessmen closely connected to the CFI. He'd never met either of them before, and neither of them, so far as he knew, had even set foot in his constituency. We've also discovered that over £30,000 from CFI members went to campaign funds of members of Cameron's team, first elected in 2005. Ed Vaizey, now Shadow Minister of Culture. Greg Hands, Shadow Treasury Minister. Michael Gove, Shadow Education Secretary. Grant Shapps, Shadow Minister of Housing. Brooks Newmark, Opposition Foreign Affairs Whip. And Shailesh Vara, Shadow Deputy Leader of the House. And what about David Cameron himself? We found out that in 2005 he met CFI supporter Pochu Zabludovic for coffee. Afterwards he gave Cameron £15,000, followed by £50,000 to Conservative Central Office. Mr. Zabludovic says that he was an early contributor to David Cameron's leadership, and all his contributions are a matter of public record. We've been reliably informed that donations from all CFI members and their businesses add up to well over £10 million over the last 8 years. We believe that's more than any other lobby in Westminster. Here's another example of how the pro-Israel lobby works. A few weeks ago, the UN was to vote on a resolution following Judge Goldstone's report criticising both Hamas and Israeli forces for human rights abuses in Gaza. The CFI rang up William Hague's office, and after consulting with David Cameron, he gave them this quote:
"Unless the draft resolution is redrafted to reflect the role that Hamas played in starting the conflict, we would recommend that the British government vote to reject the resolution."
Blair, good morning. Are you confident today?
It was under Tony Blair that the Israel lobby first acquired real influence in government. Former chairman of the Labour Friends of Israel, John Mendelsohn, boasted,
"Zionism is pervasive in New Labour. It's automatic that Blair will come to Labour Friends of Israel meetings."
Today, Mendelsohn is Labour's chief fundraiser, and Labour Friends of Israel has sent even more MPs to Israel than has the CFI. Shortly before Blair became party leader in 1994, he met Michael Levy, the pop music millionaire, at a social event arranged by the Israeli embassy. They became friends, playing tennis together, and Levy became Blair's chief fundraiser. It's estimated that he raised over £15 million for Labour before the row over cash for peerages. When Tony Blair became Prime Minister in 1997, he awarded Michael Levy a life peerage and made him his special envoy to the Middle East. But because Lord Levy was unpaid and working directly to the Prime Minister, what he negotiated between Israel and its Arab neighbours on behalf of Britain was kept secret.
He didn't want to be a minister because had he been a minister, he would have been questioning what he was doing. From the point of view of people like myself, as Shadow Foreign Secretary, I wasn't going to support what he was doing unless I knew what it was.
Oxford University Middle East specialist Professor R.V. Schleim thinks Levy's role was actually damaging to Britain.
Something became skewed in British politics when an unelected friend of the Prime Minister had so much influence over British policy towards the Middle East. In this sense, I think that Michael Levy probably did do some damage to our British interest, but very clearly he damaged Britain's reputation in the Middle East.
But Labour may lose the general election next spring. Today, the Conservative Friends of Israel are making sure they will be influential if David Cameron forms the next government.
I've just come from the Conservative Party Conference Centre, and it's filled with every kind of lobbyist and interest group promoting their message. It's impossible not to admire the sheer professionalism and hard work of the Conservative Friends of Israel, with their long list of breakfast, lunches and evening receptions. They expect the Conservative Party to hear their message, and more than that, to deliver.
The longer I'm here, the more I'm beginning to feel that the CFI's purpose is to make sure David Cameron's Middle East policy is in step with the political agenda of the current Israeli government. It also has a surprising friend. It seems that any friend of Israel is a friend of the CFI, even if they have a questionable past.
I'm very interested that this man here, Mikhail Kaminski, Polish political leader, this man has been lionized by the Conservative Friends of Israel because he's pro-Israeli, and they seem prepared to disregard the fact that in the past he's made remarks which to some people could be construed as anti-Semitic.
Mr. Kaminski represents a right-wing Polish party. A few years ago, he refused to apologize to the Jews for what had happened to them in Poland during the Second World War. But today, the CFI is prepared to overlook those remarks, citing his support for Israel now. And David Cameron has put the Conservative Party into an alliance under Kaminski's leadership in the European Parliament. Yet when Kaminski spoke at the CFI luncheon, director Stuart Pollock didn't want television in.
I'm sorry. Please take it down.
We asked Richard Harrington, the CFI's chairman, about Mr. Kaminski.
CFI is totally supportive of Mr. Kaminski.
About the CFI's activities and donations, he said,
"We work openly and publicly to ensure that Israel's case is properly understood in Parliament. There is a clear distinction to be made between donations made independently by individuals who happen to be members of CFI and those made by CFI as an organisation. All donations have been registered in the appropriate way and are in the public domain. Even taking this into account, Dispatch's claims that donations add up to well over £10 million in the last 8 years is not supported by any facts."
In part 2, Madonna's friend, the man who bankrolls the public face of Britain's pro-Israel lobby.